Hello. This is Cristi here. I don't usually do live shows on a Saturday, but I thought this would be a nice time. Everything is relaxed. It's very hot outside, and everybody's confused about the Descript timeline. So I thought, hey, I watched the video that Descript put out when they launched the new timeline. They have launched everybody on it, like they turn it on for everybody, and everybody's confused about it and having problems with it. So I watched the video that they put out with the changelog. That video is already outdated. There's a feature there that's not shown in that exists already in the timeline and a change there. So I thought I would walk you through this, and I'll leave this video here for you for the future for a while until they change things again and this video becomes irrelevant, in which case I guess I'll have to make another one. So put your questions in the chat and I will get to them. I have a list of things to go through with the new timeline. I will walk you through everything in the new timeline, what has changed, what is different, what is nice, what is not so nice. I have been using it for a few weeks now because I used to be an ambassador with Descript. I'm no longer an ambassador, but anyway, I have been using it for a few weeks and I kind of got used to it. And I have a big downside about it. I'll let you know about it later. So, hey, if you have questions about it, you don't know how to do some, you don't know how to do something, or maybe you have, a workflow that's been disrupted, put it in the chat and I will answer your questions. And I will not stop today until we answer all the questions. And before we continue, if you wish to learn Descript with me one on one, uh, check out this link. My coaching calls, one on one coaching, happy to help you and walk you through even from scratch. I stay up to date with everything in Descript and I try to help, you know, stay up to date and all the new features, all the bleeding edge stuff that's happening. I know everything about it. So happy to walk you through that or teach you from scratch or teach your team. Check out that link. I will put it up in the screen again because it has expired. Okay, so that being said, I want to share my screen and I'm going to walk you through all of the different changes with the timeline. Let's go. Let's go. Let me just move my windows a little bit around here. Okay, here we go. That's the window. And let's share the screen right now. I should probably set myself to do not disturb, shouldn't I? That's probably a good idea. Here we go. All right. Now, sharing the screen. And you know what? I'm going to share it in my browser because it is important to be in the browser because of the sound. So, just bear with me. Oh, I had it I had it open on the desktop. Big mistake. Here we go. Now, by this time you probably know that the new web-based app in Descript is um, on the desktop as well as on the web, and you don't really much have a say in the way of updating it. So Descript is updating it whenever they feel like, and there's nothing you can do about it, I'm afraid. So here we go. Let's share the screen right now. Okay, sorry about the delay there. Screen and Chrome tab. Here we go. All right, I trust everybody can see the screen. I'm gonna try and make it, I think it's a good size, I hope. Let me just make it a bit larger so you can see everything there is to see. Okay, so I've got a project here. I'm going to use this project as an example. It is my friend Chris Menard's project, and I want to show you what has changed. Now, you may have been thrown into this yesterday or 2 days ago when they launched this, and you may be confused. Or you don't know what's going on, what's happening. This is tradition with Descript. Everything is changing, everything is moving around. Like in the bottom right corner, you can see that the Underlord has been moved. At the bottom right, it used to be at the top, and the AI actions are now called AI tools. So one thing that I say to all my students is try to learn Descript by learning principles and notions and workflows and names of things and how things are organized so that when they move, you are not stuck with a particular workflow and you're confused or thrown into a loop whenever they change something. So what I mean by this is like, okay, it's now called AI tools. It used to call AI actions. It's kind of the same thing. Just click around and you will see what's happening. It's the same stuff that used to be called Underlord. And the Underlord now is the agent thing that you can chat with, right? So it's not like the naming change and the position on the screen has changed. That shouldn't throw you for a loop so often. You can probably learn principles and stuff like that. And, if you can't, a lot of the things in Descript can be done in multiple ways. So you can add a scene in a number of ways, like 4 or 5 ways. You can apply layouts about 4 or 5 ways. You can pull up the command palette and type stuff in there and it's going to find it. So there's a lot of ways to achieve something. So that's one of the things that probably throws everybody who learns a series of clicks. So I'm clicking there and I click on that and I click on that, and then when they change or those clicks don't work anymore, you get very confused. So my encouragement is that you learn principles and you learn how Descript does things. And okay, every now and then they may remove a feature or they make it work differently, but that shouldn't be, like a deal breaker. And I know I whine a lot on Facebook. I'm like the most biggest critic. I think they hate me like, they hate my guts. I'm sure they do. But um, I train people on Descript every day. So it's one of those things that if you learn to find your way around, it doesn't really disrupt you that much when the interface changes. Anyway, enough of that. So let's look at the new timeline, okay? So I've got this project as a simple project. So before we go, now Descript still allows you to turn off the timeline. If you hate it or you think it's buggy for you or it doesn't work or you need more time, they allow you to still turn it off. So let me show you. We're starting this video by actually turning the thing off. I'll just show you how to turn it off. If you go to the top left corner, there's this three lines, app menu, whatever they call it. And if you go to file and you've got the settings down here, not file, sorry, settings down here, you go to your settings and down here you scroll in the general section, there is the labs. Okay, labs is a very loose word there, but you've got some features here that you can turn on and off. So one of them is obviously the new timeline. So you could turn it off right here and it's going to go back to the previous timeline. Now, they did say that soon everybody's going to be forced onto this and there's not going to be any way to disable it. But okay, if you need a couple of weeks, I guess, just turn it off here and keep going with the old one, right? So that's how you turn it off. I'm not going to turn it off now because I want to show it to you. So the new timeline is at the bottom. Everything's at the bottom, contained into this big kind of area you can expand. And the thing, before we expand the timeline, in the video in the changelog, they actually do this, but it's not possible anymore. It used to be possible that you put your mouse over this line at the bottom and drag up to bring the timeline, into view or to make it taller or shorter. It's not possible to do this now because just yesterday, or yeah, yesterday, when they announced this, they actually rolled out this little guy here, which is a progress bar. And this is going all over the entire composition, right? So you scroll this guy around here and look at this. It just moves all over the video, all the way to the end. And you will see that this actually works regardless of how much you are zoomed in on the timeline itself. So maybe on the timeline, you zoom in and see only a portion. This timeline here at the top, this progress bar, I guess you would call this one, is for the full width. It's the full composition. So it kind of allows you to quickly scrub through the entire timeline, even though in the timeline down there you don't see much. So okay, if you have a more complex project, this is where it comes. My main downside with this new timeline is that it is incredibly slow if you have a more complex project, right? So I'm going to show you, if we have time, a big project that I was working on, and it's literally, you drag this thing around. And even now, with one single video stream in here, there's nothing going on in this video. It's just a video. You can see how the wheels are spinning, right? So it doesn't update in real time like you would see in an application that has proxies turned on, for example, and okay, I don't know if they can do that, but as more complex your project becomes, this thing becomes slower and slower and slower to the point where scrubbing it won't make any sense. It'll be more of a matter of just clicking around this little progress bar. So this is very new, like 2 days fresh. Okay. Now, let me show you how to bring up the timeline if you don't see it open. To open the timeline, the only way to do it right now is to go to this little guy here, this arrow, apart from the command option T, which is the screenshot you see there, the screen shortcut you see there, it's this guy. So if you put your mouse down here in the middle, you see this little arrow pointing up. But can you click it? No. You can click and drag it. And look at this. Now comes the new timeline like this. So there it is in all its glory. This here is your former script track. Well, not former, it's still called the script track down here. And this is your whole timeline here. Now, you see it quite big because I zoomed into this window so that you can see nicely, but I usually work on a much higher resolution, and this is very tiny. If you're on my screen, uh, in a usual working day, it'll be like this, right? So the whole scene, rail, and everything is kind of small. But let's go back to this full zoom. So I'm just going to walk you through all of the feature of this tool, this timeline. Again, if you want to turn it off, click on this guy and pull it down like this, right? So you can see how stuff just disappears. If you're hiding away your waveform, you will see just the words and the scene, right? So that graphic here with the thumbnails from the video is what used to be the scene rail. You remember the scene rail, that's what they called it, used to be on the left side of the script. So across the left here, now it's at the bottom, and it is much more detailed in that it doesn't just show you one thumbnail every now and then when the scene is changing. It shows you thumbnails spread out over the whole scene. So my project right here, this composition, only has one scene. So if I zoom out all the way, this is the entire video. You see it's got the thumbnail of Chris, although at this point it's me on the screen. So it's, look, it updates whenever it feels like it. It's a bit slow to update if you have a complex project with a lot of scenes, a lot of elements. This actually could be even black for a long time because it's working on it in the background and updating these thumbnails. So you can scrub along the timeline like this. But if you are zoomed in, and I was telling you earlier, the more you zoom in, you will see how the thumbnails update to show you the current, whatever approximation of the video is in that point. So if I move this around and leave it, now the thumbnails have updated and you can see what's actually in this point. So it's not a bad thing. It's very nice. You can have a visual of what's going on in your video. And I am zoomed in here quite close. You see, I only see a couple of words. And if I make it taller, you should see the um, waveform. I'm very close zoomed in, but watch this. You see that progress bar at the top? It shows me accurately where I am in kind of the middle of the video. So if I keep scrubbing this guy, you see how I'm moving through the video, and my bottom view, my timeline stays in this point where I'm working on. But if I want to preview something from like later in the project, I can scrub around like this. If I release that, it's gonna show me the preview on the canvas there, but it's not taking me away from this point I am in. If I want to go away from here, I will have to pull this guy, which is the playhead. The blue line is the playhead. So that's kind of how you navigate. My recommendation for this, and this has been available for many years now. The way to navigate around the timeline is very usually it's very easy with the mouse. So if you have a mouse with a mouse wheel, I strongly recommend you get one. So a mouse with this mouse wheel, here's how you do it. So if I need to zoom in and out, making the timeline see more or less, show more or less, I will use command or control key on Windows, hold down the command key and move your wheel in on the mouse. If you pull back, you're going to zoom out. And if you push back in forward, push forward, it's going to zoom in. And it's going to zoom in where your mouse is, right? So if I zoom all the way out and I move my mouse here where Chris is showing, and I scroll command and mouse, you see I am scrolling kind of in that place. I'm zooming in that location. In and out with the mouse. Look at this. I am spinning the mouse like that. All right. So that's one way to do it. And sorry, I should probably change my layout on the video because I don't really, I think I'm losing a lot of the video space layout. Here we go. Picture in picture. How is that? That looks better, maybe? I hope so. Okay. Nope. Picture in picture. All right. I hope you can see this. Okay. So now that was the kind of navigation, zooming in and out on the timeline. And if you need to pan around, like scroll the timeline left and right, another nice way to do this with the keyboard and mouse is you hold down the Shift key on Mac and Windows, and hold down the Shift key and spinning your mouse wheel. Look at this. I am scrolling left and right on the timeline, and I use this a lot to quickly scrub through. I'm not even touching the screen. I'm not clicking on anything. Just using your mouse wheel to move around. A lot of my students, when I show them this, they go, "Wow, this is amazing." So this is a kind of typical behavior in most video editing software. You can use your mouse to do this, and this is I'm glad they have this in Descript also. And if you want to zoom in with the keyboard, Command minus or Control minus, so if you do this, look, I'm zooming out. Control plus, zooming in. And this is the plus and minus next to the backspace key, not the ones on the numeric pad. Okay. So that's kind of how you zoom in and out. Now, what is new on this timeline? Okay. So the first thing is we learned how to turn it off and how to reveal it. Now, we looked at the global scroll bar, and there is one thing that is the prominent kind of portion here. We talk about the thumbnails. This is the scene thumbnails, right? And the strip goes all the way to the end. So how do you now create a scene? That's very easy to do now. It used to be that in the past you were like positioning your playhead somewhere. So if I need to change and I create a scene right here, I'm going to go and put my playhead here. So clicking down here brings the playhead into that position, and it shows you, of course, what's on the screen. And if you press again, the one way you could do it was pressing slash on your keyboard, boom, splits the video right there and inserts a scene boundary. Okay, I'm going to do another one. So if I scroll somewhere else, here's another way to create a scene. You put your mouse down here in another place in the timeline, and this button that they advertise all the time is called split now. Or you can press S. Okay, so the S key or pressing the split button will split the scene. Click on that. There you go. We added another scene. So one other thing that I like is now they brought back the scene numbers. So you can tell that you've got number 3 here. This is scene number 3. You see the numbers again. That was very, I mean, sometimes I was like, how many scenes do I have? I don't know. You can now see the numbers, which is great. And you can create scenes also in the text like you knew before. You don't, this is not something new. So if you go in the text somewhere, maybe here next to the word yeah, so you put your cursor in there, you can press slash on the keyboard again, forward slash, there you go. You've added a new scene in that point. But that's not so accurate because it's based on words. So if I'm creating a scene in text, you can see that it kind of puts it, if you look down here, just before that word begins. Normally, I wouldn't put it there. I would put it maybe here in this gap, somewhere in the middle of the gap. So that's why I prefer to put my scenes in the timeline rather than the text, okay, rather than the transcript. Okay, so another thing, how do you now move the scene boundary? Maybe, like I said, I don't want the scene to begin here where the word is. I want it to begin somewhere in the gap in the speech, right? So how do you do this? Well, you can grab this guy. You see this guy here, move scene boundary. That is a confusing thing for new users. I've seen people ask about it. If you don't have a scene selected, that doesn't show up. Look at this. Boom. I've deselected the scene. You can see I'm inside scene number 3 because it's got like a black outline and my playhead is in there. Now, if I click in here, I'm in scene number 4. The scene is a black outline, but you see that scene resize thing doesn't show up here. All right. I can now move it. This is the thing. There's so much going on that every way you put your mouse, there's something going on, right? There's something happening. In between them, we have transitions. We will look at these. At the top, you have the insert scene. But look, you have to move your mouse very accurately. At the bottom, just underneath everything, you see that little line now, and you see the cursor. Maybe you see it. It's kind of small, changed into a bracket. And now I can grab and look at this. I am changing the length of the scene, but not the boundary location, right? So I'm actually basically losing my gap in here. Look at this, and losing my words. So that's not what I want to do. Of course, you want to, if you want to trim your scene and hide some of the content, by all means use this little trimming action here, right? But if you want to actually move, I'll just undo this. Okay, if you want to actually move the scene boundary without affecting content, which means you are going to change into scene number 4 earlier or later, depending on where you drag that. The only way to do this is look at this, how to do this. You need to select this scene. And by the way, you need to be on the select tool, pressing A to go to the select tool. I'll show you where the tools are. They move them in this drop down. And you click on that scene one time or twice, maybe one, sometimes it's twice. If you're not inside that scene, you have to click once and twice, or maybe it needs to turn blue. It needs to be blue. When that happens, look at this. I'm deselecting it, clicking on it, it turns blue. Now the boundary indicator, you see it right there, that little tiny, tiny little, I don't know, it looks like a marker kind of thing. That's the guy you want to grab and move. Look at this. I am moving that scene boundary left or right. And that does not affect the actual content. I'm not cutting content out. I'm not trimming that scene. I'm just changing where the scene is changing into the next one, right? So that is that little thing. It's very fiddly. This is one of those things that I think they're going to change soon because it's very fiddly. You know, if you're looking around this kind of scene boundary here, there's so much going on here, right? So you've got the transition, you have the insert scene, you have the trim scene, and they just couldn't find any more room to put that little marker. Instead, click on the scene, and now you can change the scene boundary. It doesn't matter which scene, the next one, the previous one, that is when that guy shows up and you can move the thing around, right? So that's how you change the scene boundary. Now, the expanding and the trimming, that's something I don't really do because I don't want to reveal content. I deal with that down in the timeline, which still seems to behave the same way. The waveform area, the script area, has remained untouched for a long time, and I hope they don't mess with this because there's a lot of functionality there that we all got used to, right? And one nice thing I see here is that now the gaps contain the display the length. So every gap, if you scroll through your video like this, you will see a number, not these numbers, because these are numbers. So you see like 0.2 seconds. That's a gap right there. And the gaps are slightly lighter colored. So this is a gap right there. If you click on it, it selects that gap. Okay, that's good. And also if you drag the words around, and as you do it, it will show you the new length of the gap. You know, that's how you do it. You just pull this left or right. Now, the problem with the gaps is I never liked the way you adjusted with the words because it cuts from the beginning of the word. So my preferred way to shorten gaps is to shorten them with the range tool. That's my choice. So 0.2, let me just find a longer gap somewhere maybe. So here we go, 0.6 seconds. If I want to trim this gap, I don't like to pull the word because you see it makes a cut right there before the word. I don't like that. I like to cut gaps from the middle. And I think at some point Descript had this, but they no longer do. If I need to shorten that gap, here's what I would do. I will go in the drop down where the tools are now and go to the range tool, and I will make my own selection like this. And you notice I leave a little padding, a little buffer on the right and the left of that gap. And now I am backspace to cut that gap, zero point 0.3 seconds it is now. The gap cut is in the middle, and everybody has time to take a breath before they say the next word. Okay, that is my thinking behind shortening gaps manually. Now the automated way will cut them from the, you know, that's up to you if you want to use that. Okay, let's move on. So we have done the scene rail and adding scene. Now, how do you add scene instead of just splitting them, right? There are new controls, and if I zoom out, you will see now I've got all the scenes with the little thumbnails and the numbers on them and everything, you know, and you can see the splits. You can insert the scene at the beginning by going to this little big plus in here, big plus, add new scene at the beginning. and I'm going to click that, and that's going to add a blank scene. Descript brings up this layout thing because it thinks I want to apply a layout to that scene. I don't. I'm just going to click away, which means I have a blank scene there with black on it. There's nothing going on. That's fine. And you can have another one at the very end of the composition when you want to add that, maybe an end screen or something like that. You just add it at the end, clicking this big plus sign right there. Again, it brings this layout thing. I don't want to do that now. Now, if you want to add a scene in between another scene, there is a new indicator for that that we looked at before. If you put your mouse in between the two scenes, you want to insert something in there, you will see this big plus sign showing in between there. So you just click on that, boom, it inserts a 5 second by default, 5 second blank scene in there. If I zoom in with the command and mouse wheel, you see that has become scene number 3. There's nothing going on in here, and there is a 5 second gap clip. Gap clips in Descript, you know what they are. They keep stuff apart from collapsing and, keeping the distance open. So that's one thing there. Now, how do you delete a scene? Well, it's easy. You just right click on this little thumbnail. You can do that too. You can right click on this and say delete scene, or you just click on it to select it and then backspace should delete it. If you are on the select tool, the range tool doesn't let you delete scenes like that. So look at this. I'm on the select tool, click on the scene. You see it's blue. That means it is selected. Okay, so backspace will get rid of that scene right there. Okay, now let's say that I added a scene by mistake in here between 2 and 3. I don't need a scene. I need to go back to no scene in that place. There is a way, and it used to be from a long time, to merge, to combine two scenes into one. So here's how you do it. You can right click on one scene and say merge with scene before or after. In this case, I want to merge it with the scene after. And there you go. Now they have become a single scene. Now be careful with this because there's a bit of a catch here. If you have different elements in these two scenes, some unpredictable stuff is going to happen. Okay, I'll just demonstrate. Let me split them again, and I'll create a scene here and another one here. So I have a tiny scene here, and in that scene, I'm going to go and add an element. Let's put a star in there, right? So you can see that new elements, new layers, any stuff that you add will show up in the timeline also. Let me close that. And you see, I've got my star here, and it is only in scene number 3. Now, what do you think happens if I merge scene 2 with 3, right? Let's see. Click on scene 2, which has no star in it. Right click, merge with scene after. Boom. Now look at this. That star has been expanded into my previous scene and now exists all over that scene, right? And this will happen, and a big one is when you have music, which is not showing up on the screen, but you can hear it. So if you have music in one of the scenes and you merge, you're going to get a lot of music kind of overlapping with maybe other music that you used to have. And this happens all the time to me. And I'm like, where did that extra double music come from? Well, probably from like a scene that I had the music in and I merged, right? Big thing you need to make sure you check. And by the way, just to show you this, there is a way to kind of have a visual of what is all over your project in the timeline, different elements. So maybe you say, hey, I only have music at the end. What's music doing at the beginning? So that's a way for you to say, hey, I've got some music here or some sound that I didn't need. And what I mean by this is they added a new indicator along the timeline. I'll show you along the timeline here of what elements you have in your composition. For example, if I go to my project, which is, by the way, now moved at the top there, and I grab this music and I put it at the beginning, you see the music appears in the layers, right? But also now you have a little visual indication here on the little timeline where the timestamps are. It shows you there's music anchored or starting in that point. If I actually bring this music, let me zoom out. If I bring this music somewhere at the end as well, so twice, you notice now I've got two of these musical notes showing on the um, on the timeline, timestamp space. I don't know what they call this one strip. So there's music showing there. There's also markers. So if I go to our little trusty AI tools and tell it to add chapters, I'm just going to let it add the chapters automatically. There's a bunch of them here. Add to script. Now look at this. On the timeline, we see the markers too. That's nice. I mean, this is one positive change in here, along with the fact that you can see the whole strip. I like these things because they show you a preview of where your markers are. And look at that. That little big global timeline progress bar, whatever you want to call it, also shows you where the markers split. So it kind of gives you a little view of what you have in your entire composition. And another thing that shows up in this bar is the comments. So if you have comments from people, kind of like if you use Descript as a review tool, they will show you the comments there as well. So I'm going to go to my comment bar here, and I'm going to add a comment. I'm actually going to go just here and just in the text. You can add a comment to a word or something by selecting it and say comment right there. And this is a comment. There you go. I'm commenting on my thing, and I'm going to comment somewhere else. Let's go to this place.
Now,
All right, just scroll down somewhere else. And again, let's add a comment in here. Uh, Last comment. All right, so I am adding these comments, and look at this. They also show along the timestamp track, whatever you want to call this thing. So if you click on those, they take you right there. So look at this, the line they selected. If I zoom out all the way, you will see all of those elements. I've got markers, I've got comments. One thing that I don't see is when things kind of overlap. Like I've got a marker and music down here, and you can see the music doesn't show up. So if you zoom in enough there, the music doesn't show anymore. If I move the music, now that indicator's moved. So I guess markers have priority. I don't know. They should maybe show both somehow. Kind of a display problem there. Anyway, so that is the new indicator showing up um, across the top, right? So if you look at this composition here, right? You look at this view, there's so much happening. Look at this. Where am I looking? I mean, except for my star, which I'm going to get rid of because it's just polluting visually. You see what's happening here? You've got the script visual, which honestly, I don't know what it's doing there. I never understood what this thing is doing there. My script is down here, right? And I've got music and I've got the scenes and I've got the indicators and the progress bar and the little scene thumbnails and there's so much stuff going on here, and it may appear like it's very intimidating. Okay. Plus, you can actually go and make this. I think it used to be possible to make it larger. I think this has been removed now to make the layers taller. If you're struggling to see them, now you can scroll in between the two, the scene rail at the top and the time waveform at the bottom. And the waveform, if you go too low with the timeline like this, it will collapse the waveform. Usually, it doesn't do it now, but it has collapsed the space in between. Sometimes there you go. So you can bring it like this, and you can see very small. And there you go. If you click out of it or something, I don't know. There's many modes of what's going on that you can do, and then the waveform is just going to disappear, and you just see the words. So if you just care about the words, I guess this is a nice view. You have a big thumbnail there showing the video and so on. Now, there's one thing that I've seen a lot of people say, "Hey, so how do I move scene boundaries again?" Because you can move them with that little indicator like I showed you, but also you can move them in the text. And the way you can move them in the text is kind of like it was before. You have to drag these little thumbnails that you see all over the place. So I'm just going to add a couple of more scenes with the slash key and just give us a bunch of scenes in the text. There you go. So you see now, you have these tiny thumbnails in between the words. That shows you that after that word, there's a scene change. Now, if you prefer to move scenes that way and you don't care about very accurate moving, which you can do only down here in the timeline, you can actually grab these little thumbnails and just move them around and drop them on a word. So if I want to have this scene actually start, let's say at the beginning here on the word here's, all I have to do is just grab this little thumbnail, and you see transparently it looks like a little slash key, and you're moving it and dropping it on the word you want to move it to. Look at that. Boom. So now you have moved that scene boundary in that point. Okay. That's how you do it. And okay, I have two scenes next to each other here, but that's not a problem. Right click and merge with scene before. Look at that, boom. And I have got rid of that duplication there. Now, there is still possible to do copy layout, paste layout. You know that, right? So if I have a lot of scenes in here, and let's say in one of the scenes, I would like the video to be, oh, what happened here? Something's messed up. If I want in one of the scenes, let's say I want my video to be small. There's a bug there. Like, look at this. My video looks funny. So in that scene, my video is in the corner. In another scene, it's not, right? So you can still do the copy and paste layout. You can right click either on the scene rail at the bottom and say copy layout, right? Copy. Or you can do the thing on these thumbnails, which to me they look like, okay, where is this one? I don't know. I'm losing the visual coordination between the top script area and the bottom timeline area. So I'm still able to right click on these thumbnails in the script and say paste layout. Look at that. Or, but I pasted it on the same scene. Let's try the next scene. Right click, paste layout like this. And there you go. And the little thumbnails update all the time. And you can see how they change the layout. And you can do the same here. Right click, copy layout, paste layout, save the scene as a new layout. That's how I build my templates or layout packs. You design a scene the way you like it, and then you save it as a layout. Okay. Finally, there is one way to also reset, which you probably knew. If you messed up with this, you can right click and reset layout. And I don't know what's going on here. I must have to restart. I think I have to restart because it got confused. Look at this. The whole crop box is in the wrong place. Okay, reload. Let's reload. Okay, we're back to full resolution. And I'm just going to zoom in again to the level I was at before. Oh, it's open it in the script. I'm going to open it in the browser. It opens my desktop app because I prefer to work in the desktop app. Here we go. I'm back in here now, and my crop box is now in the right place. So I can reset this layout, right click on the scene and say reset layout, and it just fills up the screen. Now, this may actually do something else for you. If you reset the layout and it doesn't know what layer to show, it may hide it like this. So then you're like, hey, where did my video go? That's not a problem. You can still bring your video back. You will notice that that scene is now empty, but the words, if I make some room, the words are still here, right? My music has gone all over the place. Forget that. I'm going to tell you why that happened because they copied the layouts and it copies whatever's in the thing and just duplicates it, right? So in this scene here, I have removed my video. How do I bring it back? This is a common question, and thankfully, these should have left the scene menu alone. So if you go to the far right, you have the scene panel, they call it. If you open the scene panel, you still have the same options, the same functionality like before to change all of the properties of the scene in there. The current scene, I mean, right? So I am in scene 7 right now, and it tells me that, I don't see my video. Well, I can scroll down and I can see that I have hidden or deleted the script layer. It's hidden. It's got this little closed eye icon. Not a problem. You click on that and bring it back in, right? Look at this. You bring back in, the eye is open, my video is back on, problem solved. Okay, so that is kind of how you move around with the layouts. Now, applying layouts, this is one thing that is now possible in like a billion ways, and I'll show you after I show you this last feature that I do enjoy. Everybody was complaining that the scene rail has gone, which is the scenes showing along the left side of the screen, along the transcript, right? People got used to that. I got used to that, and it was a nice vertical view of your entire composition. Well, now that is moved to here in the right where it's called storyboard view. If you switch to this, watch this, you have a what used to be the scene rail on the left, you have now your entire composition, all of the scenes with their preview, what they look like, bigger thumbnails ready to go in here. So that's very nice because it shows you the number. Okay, so you know how many scenes you have in a at a glance, right? It allows you to move them around. It allows you to right click and reset layout if you want. change layouts, apply layouts, like, you can right click and say change layout, and it'll ask you to choose a thumbnail or a layout pack if you want and apply it right here. So one workflow that I have is, if I have a long episode where I know that at the end I'm going to be adding a lot of elements to it. Let's say it's a conversation and it's an hour long and I'm changing cameras left, right, full size, side by side, all these layout changes. And usually I have like 3 or 4 layouts, right? I've got the side by side view, I've got the guest view and the host view full screen. So that's 3 views. Probably maybe the beginning and the end are different. So this gives you a nice overview of all those things. So to make editing faster, and the new timeline doesn't make editing faster by any means, it's super slow. Even on this maxed out Mac Studio, it's very slow. If you have a complex project, you're dying there. So my workflow is to go through an episode and edit the entire episode, create scenes manually. I don't like that AI stuff. Sorry, I'm old fashioned. The AI just creates way too many scenes. So I will go and create the scenes manually. And what I'll do is I will just change the layout just with the videos, just showing the videos how they're supposed to be at the end. So if I need to go side by side with the viewer, the host and the guest, I will just put them side by side. If I want to go full screen with the guest, I'll put them full screen. So I don't add any layouts, any elements, any graphics, nothing until I've done editing. But in doing that, in doing my editing, I have actually made the layouts look like what they're supposed to be. So then I switch to this storyboard view and I see, okay, I've got like 20 side by side scenes. I've got 20 host full screen, and then I've got like 30 guests. Okay, great. Now I can go to each one of them and apply the layout from this view without scrolling through the entire video. So that's much faster because you leave the heavy part, you leave the resource intensive part to the very end, when you're not going to go and edit again. You're just going to apply those layouts and go through them. So another nice way of this storyboard view, another aspect of it, is that you see where you have transitions. And as you know from a while ago, if you turn this on, Descript would add smart transitions to all the new scenes. So as you can see here, all of my scenes have transitions because you see that black thing in between. You can remove them from here. I wish there was a way to just say, right click somewhere and just remove all the transitions because I don't need them. That's like a nice, would be a nice option here. If I click on this, you can click on that transition like that and you can change it or remove it, right? So look, remove. And when you don't have a transition, you see there's a very thin line between the scenes. That shows you there's no transition there. So that's kind of how you can see, oh, I've got a bunch of transitions I don't want, right? And also, clicking this should have an option in here that says remove this one or remove all. I wish there was an option because I find myself just going remove, click, remove, click, click, remove, click, click. For some reason, it needs 2 clicks, right? Look how many clicks it takes for me to get rid of these transitions. There is a way to disable this in the settings. If you go to the file menu here and you go to settings, and there is a option here that says apply smart transitions to new scenes. So if you turn this off, it's not going to apply transitions anymore. So yeah, it's on by default. So you can turn it off right there. So now if I'm creating a new scene, it's not going to do a transition. And another thing that I've seen in the last couple of days is this thing. Every scene now has its own little progress bar. If you see right there, it's got a little progress bar of its own, which you can use to scrub through just that scene. That is a nice touch. I like that. Now, if it weren't for it to be so slow, if you have a lot of stuff going on in your project, maybe you've got a bunch of background videos running and music and visual elements and splitting cameras and changing angles and lots of stuff. If you have those things and it's a long episode, maybe you've got like full HD or 4K streams, forget about it. You're not going to be able to do much. But In a simple project like this, it's really handy to be able to scrub through just that scene and see what's going on. Maybe I wanted to change the layout to side by side, see what's going on there. The guy was scratching his whatever. So you can do this. Every one of these scenes shows you what's going on. So that's really cool. Okay, I like it. Now, um, let me see what I have not done. So you can reorder scenes here, by the way, and they'll move the scene and the content. So for example, I don't know, I'm just going to take the end screen here, which is this scene right there, which I use for YouTube. And let's say if you move it around and you drop it at the beginning, look at that. It's put it there, right? So if I play now,
Microsoft Teams is rolling out a great.
I didn't get there yet. So let's see. I'm just going to scroll. And you see, as you scroll this progress bar, it also scrolls the scene progress in that view. That's quite nice. So look, I'm on the end screen and then back into the video, right? So if you're using like B-rolls or stuff like that, it's very easy to see what's going on in your entire video using the storyboard view. Now, back to applying layouts. There's a bunch of ways you can apply layouts in the new timeline and also in Descript in general, right? The most obvious one is the one using the scene. So if you put yourself, you select that scene, you go to the scene panel, and you've got choose layout. That's one way. You can select this and choose the layout and apply it to that scene. Another way is to right click and say change layout. It brings up this little panel that now floats around. You can use this, apply scene, apply a layout from here. That's another way. One that I love too much is the fact that you can apply also using the keyboard. I am a keyboard person, so watch this. If I go to somewhere in my video and I look at the text, maybe even if you do it in the text, right? If you look at the text and say, I have decided that the guest is talking for a couple of minutes, uninterrupted. So I would like to apply a layout there that has my guest full screen. How do I do it quickly? By just looking at the text. Very easy. Look at this. You make a selection. Let's assume that this is my guest. So I'm going to select this text here on the left. This whole paragraph is where I want to make the guest full screen. You make your selection, and instead of manually pressing slash on the keyboard to add a scene, blah, 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 all you do is command slash. Command slash will bring up the layout, the layout pop up if you want it, this guy, and you select your layout. I'm just going to choose one by, for kicks and giggles, like someone says. So I'm just going to choose a layout here just as a test and watch what happens. Descript will automatically create the scene boundaries, beginning and end, and apply the layout in that scene. Now, the problem I have here is because I chose a square layout and it modified my entire composition to square. Bad thing. So go back to landscape. And now it's all messed up. Okay. But you notice what happens. So as you go into that, it will change the layout inside of that scene. So it's a very nice way to just go through your composition, maybe just look at the text, and you can have your speaker labels and you know when who's talking, and you say, you know what, I'm looking at the text and I see that this guy's been talking here for like a minute and he hasn't gone full screen. I still look at the side by side view, so I would like to make a selection in the text and just boom, apply a layout where he goes back to full screen, and then at that scene end, it goes back to side by side view. So that's a nice way to quickly create scenes, quickly apply a layout in like one keyboard shortcut, pretty much. So that's good. Now, the other way is the same keyboard shortcut works everywhere. So if I click on a thumbnail here, I selected that little thumbnail in the text and I change my mind. I want to apply a different layout. Again, command slash brings up this panel. You can select another layout and it will apply it. Right there you go. I just applied this thing. I'm just going to completely mess this up. And you see down here as well, hey, I don't like that I've got Chris full screen for some reason for too many scenes. I'm just going to again select the scene down here, command backspace. Now that's a bug I've noticed. There's no way, it doesn't know exactly where to pop up dialogue sometimes. And if you select down here in the storyboard view, command slash will just open it somewhere at the top. It doesn't know where to go. And sometimes you're unfortunate enough to not be able to click and select stuff. But anyway, I'm just going to click on this and it's applied it. So that's very easy. And finally, you can go back to the timeline view using this little switch here. Go back to timeline view. And again, you see the scenes in here. You can select that scene. Again, right click on it, um, change layout, or look at this command slash, right? So I really love this command slash, boom, pops up the thing, click. So because Descript remembers which layout pack you're using in this session, if you have a layout pack with your podcast episode, branding, whatever it is, with like the different views, all it takes is for you to just command slash select, command slash select, command slash select, right? So you can quickly apply your layouts at the end of editing when you don't have to just suffer through the slowness of editing in Descript with your layouts applied, with all the graphics going on. Depending on how complex your layouts are, mine can get really crazy. um, so that's one nice thing to apply layouts quickly and easily. Now, when it comes to doing bulk stuff, it's really almost impossible, right? So if I need to say, hey, I would like to select multiple scenes and just change the layout for them, I can't. So if I go to the first scene I selected, let's see. You see, I hold down the shift key. I am unable to select more than one scene down here. I wish I could because I could just say, hey, you know what? I changed my mind. I would like to merge all these scenes together. I made a complete mess of this composition. I want to reset all the scenes. You cannot do that. There's probably you right click, merge with scene before. These two actions don't have a a shortcut. You can move them with the shortcuts, but you can't merge. So that's one thing. So you'd have to just do this merge with right click, merge with right click. You're doing a lot of this, just repeated action here. Um, arm, wrist, stress disorder, whatever you call it. Look at this. How many clicks does it take to reset my scenes? Quite a lot. And now that I did that, look what happens. If I expand this timeline, look at this. Because I copied the layout a couple of times, my music got replicated all over the place. So thankfully, I can see on this side, in this top bar here, that I've got the music here. I'm going to select it and delete. Click, select, delete. Let's get rid of all the music. There we go. And now I am back to my original. All right. So there you go. We're back to square one. Actually, I'm going to remove that scene too, delete, and delete the last one. And we are back in business. There you go. That's my video now restored. So, except for the chunk that I put the a YouTube video at the end screen at the end. Okay. Oh well. I'll have to fix that. You know what? I'm just going to delete everything and go to my project and bring my video back in here. Here we go. Now we're back. So I find that I do this a lot with Descript. Just, you know, um, just delete stuff and start all over instead of just fixing things. There you go. So if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. Oh my goodness, I've been talking for almost an hour by myself. Nobody has any questions. Everybody loves the new timeline. What do you think? Is it disrupted? Is it yay or nay? What's your opinion about the new timeline? Um, did you use it until now, or is it just the first time you see it? Anyway, I hope I was able to clarify. Let me just look at my list. I just don't want to miss anything. Okay, so we talked about turning it off, revealing it, global toolbar, timeline indicators, adding, expanding, inserting, merging, relocating. Oh my goodness, look at that. All of those things. Reordering, changing the boundaries, transitions. Yes, everything we've covered, everything. So I think I may have mentioned transitions. If you split your scene, then move away, you have this little indicator. Click on that and select the transition that you want. The same thing can be done again, like I said, in the scene rail. If you go there in the scene rail, when in doubt, when you don't know where stuff is, go to the scene rail and do what you want, including adding transitions like right here. Look, in, fade, done, right? So we've added a transition right there. So that's kind of how it works. That's your new timeline in Descript. It's an hour presentation. I've gone into as much detail as I could, but I hope it was helpful. So let me know in the comments if you what do you think about it, because I know I like to complain, um, and I hope that Descript have a way to the um, I hope Descript have a way or planning to severely increase performance of this application, because the more stuff that they add, and I appreciate the new functionality here, the new possibilities, but that has significantly made Descript slower too. So I don't know if it's just the fact that they keep adding stuff, but I hope they at some point they go, hey, maybe we need to rewrite some of the underlying technology to make this faster, because it's not sustainable to keep going, keep adding stuff, keep, adding functionality here. And I know that a lot of people think that, AI is going to be the answer to everything, but it's not. So AI is not going to be able to do all the finesse stuff that I want to do, all of the precise editing. It's not. It's not. I mean, so I still like to do stuff myself. All right, I see a question. Kurt says, can you go through your layouts? I haven't set mine yet, but seeing you do this command slash tell speed everything up. Yes. So my layouts usually are depending on the client. So the client may have like a brand kit or something with a logo and some kind of thing. So I'm just gonna quickly pull up here a project that I worked on quickly, and I'll show you kind of how we do the layouts. Um, so just let me open that project here. Big project. All right. Share my screen. Share the other tab. Okay. So this is my friend Michael Krisa's podcast, Builder Straight Talk. All right. So you can see this layout. There's a lot going on here, right? So we've got um, the two speakers side by side in a box with the names and the text box with an underlay with the logo at the top, and there's the little triangle fading into the view, and I've got a gradient going on. And if I play this,
There is no business.
Welcome to the Builder Straight.
you may see that in the background the video is actually moving, so there's a lot going on. Now Descript is telling me it's a large project. Yeah, I know. So if I open the timeline, it's going to be a horror show. Look at this. I can barely pull it up, right? So look at how much stuff we've got. Now, a lot of this stuff is actually looped video, which is running in the background, which is why I'm going to optimize that into, because it's got like a transparency with a loop background, and it's crazy. I know. Okay, don't shoot me. But look at how many elements we've got here, because every time you change the layout, Descript brings those elements in anew, even if they were the same elements when the layout was created, and they are the same elements throughout. Like all of these things that you see here, they're actually like the text boxes with the names in them, right? So if I zoom in just so you can see better, look what's in my scene, right? So I've got um, the logo. So the problem is this logo shows up on the screen all the time. If I make the timeline a bit smaller, you will see it. The logo is now in the top left corner, and in another scene, the logo is in the middle. It is the same logo, the same graphic, the same image, it's just in a different position. So normally Descript should have like a single clip throughout and just move it around. That would be a single clip just moved in a different position. But that doesn't work when you're bringing in the scenes with the layouts at random times after you've made your scenes or whatever. So they will just copy and copy and copy and copy and bring those elements over and over and over again. So that gives you this incredible fragmentation. And you can see the name actually has survived because that's all the way through. But the logo with the layout stuff and the underlay, that keeps being copied, right? The moment it disappears, it just gets re-added. So creating these layouts, we do them in a project. So we, the way that I create the layouts is I start editing and I design the layout in here on the actual footage. I set the size of the boxes, the positioning, the graphics, whatever it is. And then when I'm happy with one of the layouts, I will right click and say save scene as new layout. And that's going to bring up the pop-up box. Like you've probably seen this, you have to choose a layout pack first, and then let's create a new one. I'm just going to create a new one by a test, like BST test. All right. And I'm just going to keep that share with drive and create, right? So now this is the side by side view, right? That's one layout that I like. It's nice. It's got everything I need in that scene, and I want to save it. So I'm going to click add, and it takes a couple of seconds to do that. And then the layout is going to be ready to use. Now, um, it remembers where I applied this layout from and the first time. So it shows me here and it opens up this layout pack automatically. I've got a bunch of layouts created in here. Now, that's the nice thing with the scene changing the layout with with the shortcut key, because if I open the timeline just to show you and I go to the storyboard view, you can see how big this project is. It hasn't actually managed to generate all of the thumbnails of the scenes themselves. This is the first time I open this view in this particular project, so it's going to look, they're showing up, right? So this is a very nice way to get an overview of your entire project and which layout is applied where. So now if I change my mind and I say, hey, you know what, in this particular one where the host, the guest is full screen, I may say, you know what, command slash um, okay, that's impossible to select because it brings that box in there. So I'm going to right click, change layout, and there it is. And it brings that side by side view because it remembers that I just created this project here, BST test, right? So I can now apply this. Don't worry about the thumbnail of the layout not being generated. It will be showing up in a while. But if I apply this, look at this. Boom, it goes to side by side view, right? So it's very easy now to just keep, and I can actually preview that scene, but look how slow it is. All right. And I can preview that scene. But if you try and preview the whole project, it's not so snappy, right? So yeah, there's a lot going on, I admit. So yeah, that's kind of how I do it. And then I create another variant of the layout with the guest full screen, and I will right click and save that, and so on. The problem comes when you then try to apply these layouts in a new project that Descript doesn't know where the tracks are. So maybe in a new project you have, again, a host and a guest, and you may have the same things like the names and the stuff. You just have the same things, and the sequence is the same. It's got the two video streams, or maybe two videos and two audios, whatever you do. That's when Descript gets it wrong. That's when you apply it, and like instead of giving you the side by side view, it shows the people inverted, or it shows you the just one person and the other screen is half empty or something, right? So it doesn't really know what's going on with a new project with new tracks, even if it's the same number of tracks, even in the same position. I've done it. So uh, that's why my approach has been to just not organize about this and create layout packs per project pretty much, right? So if I have a new guest, I will go and apply the layout, but then I go, oh, the layout that I used in the previous episode doesn't really work in this new episode because it doesn't have the right track names, I don't even know exactly what impacts the placement of them. So in that case, what I will do is I will apply that layout from the previous project. I will fix it, put everybody in the right place and save that into another layout pack just temporarily, just to get it, just to let me apply it through that episode easily. And if you do that, you're going to have like three layouts in a new project, just for this episode. And then you go with the command slash, sorry, it shows up in the right place. Right click, change layout. There you go. And I have the preview now, and I'm saying click and apply it. And I know that this works because it has been saved with the videos from this episode, and there's no chance of it messing it up. So, yeah. Yeah, so instead of, like you say, Kurt, instead of applying the same layout from a different project and just fixing it all the time, I mean, I guess another way you could do it is just apply it and fix it, and then you right click, copy layout, and then you go to another scene, paste layout all the time, which would achieve the same thing. But if you want to use this shortcut key and you don't have to go hunting for another layout to copy and paste from, you save them in a temporary project, and that's, improves. I wish there was another improvement here, um, in the way that, okay, I have applied a layout and I fixed it, and it needed adjusting or whatever. Descript should then remember the last, or all of the variants of the layouts that I applied, or the last ones that I copy and pasted. I don't know. Copy. It could have like command copy, and instead of copy, it should be like a, maybe bookmark the layout in the particular project. Save the layout in a particular project, or at least bookmark it for my session. So then when I apply command shift, command slash, I don't have to go hunting for the layout pack somewhere. It would show me, hey, these are the latest layouts you've used in this project. You use these somewhere else in another scene. Do you want to apply one of these? Yes, thank you. Because how many layouts could you possibly have in an interview? And I'm just talking about interviews now, okay? That maybe, if you're doing like a presentation, you have like 20, 50 different layouts with different elements. Okay, that's not applicable here. It's not practical to do that. But if I say, hey, I would like to remember this layout that I just applied in the scene, maybe, like, right click on a scene and say add to favorites or something. I don't know, add layouts to favorites, and it would be saved in the session. I'm happy if it's in the session, right? And I go into a layout and I save it. So this way I don't have to copy paste all the time. And I don't have to create all these duplicate layouts all the time. I would just say, great, I've got a bunch of working layouts. Now let me replicate them all over the place, because you're changing cameras back and forth. So that is a good way I would do this. I don't know how much implementation trouble that would be. There's also the bookmarks here, which probably everybody knows where it is by now. And here was a question I had from someone, which was, how do I get back to a particular timestamp? Because if you have a big project and you're jumping around and say, hey, I think I want to get to minute 15. This is something that, instead of scrubbing and scrolling and going, okay, let's keep scrolling like crazy. If I want to go quickly to minute 25, okay, here's a cool thing. And I don't know if you know about this. If you press Command K or Control K on Windows, it will bring up this thing that used to be called the conductor with a K, I guess, back when Descript was using all musical references from things. So if you bring this command palette here and you say, hey, I want to go to minute 27, you see it says, oh, seek to 27, or, okay, you want to ask the AI something, or you want to find something, but no, I want to go to 27 minutes, press enter, boom, here I am. 2700, right? So that's a nice way to jump around and to find or do things that you don't know where they are. So example, I want to generate a YouTube description from this composition. Normally you would go like AI tools, where is it? I don't know. I want to scroll. Oh, there it is. YouTube description. Well, how about pressing Command K, YouTube? Can't even type. There you go. That's the action right there. So that's like a global kind of search inside of commands and functions and things like that. So again, let's say, do I want to do show notes? Show notes. Ask show notes. Find in scripts. Okay, it doesn't have the show notes. Does it have summary? Summarize. There you go. Summarize. That's an AI action, right? So um, this helps with markers too, I think. So let me see. What's a marker that I have here? So if I open the markers, I have the marker about scaling, 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 right? So if I say Command K, scaling, there you go. It shows you the marker. It searches the markers and lets you jump to those markers quickly. There you go. So pretty useful. Very nice. Little known features, I think. They don't advertise it so much because everybody likes to point and click. But yeah, there you go. I will stop now because my throat hurts. So I do hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope I maybe answered some of your questions, confusions. I tried to cover everything there is to know about the new timeline in Descript. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. And if you want to learn with me, go and book a call with me one on one. We talk for an hour. We go over your questions or show you stuff that you need to learn, or start from scratch with Descript or Camtasia or Riverside. And also, yeah, you get a recording at the end. Check it out in the links right there. So, that being said, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.